Ahsoka Tano is easily my favorite female Star Wars character, and unironically my second favorite Star Wars character, only behind Darth Vader, which is probably why this moment in Star Wars is one of my all-time favorites.
Revenge is not the Jedi way.
I am no Jedi.
But all that aside, there is certainly, especially when considering all the recent rumors that have been going around, an issue with the oversaturation of Ahsoka Tano in any recent or upcoming Star Wars project. If every single rumor is to be believed, then she will be in the Mandalorian series, the Cassian Andor series, and the Obi-Wan series, and not only that, she will also have her own solo live-action Star Wars show on Disney+. And to that, I have to say that there is definitely such a thing as having too much of a good thing. Look at Darth Maul from Clone Wars and Rebels. His introduction in the Clone Wars made perfect sense. It was his kind of revive. It was, hey, he's back from the dead. Same with Star Wars Rebels. It made sense. It was, hey, he's still a big player in this, not to as large of an extent, but he is still around in the galaxy, and his inclusion in the series would only uplift the series itself. And then we had Solo: A Star Wars Story, and while believe me, I, like many longtime Clone Wars fans, were happy to see Darth Maul in Solo: A Star Wars Story at first, I do recognize how he was completely unneeded for the plot. His inclusion, while making perfect sense, him being a crime lord and all in Star Wars The Clone Wars, so him being one in Solo makes sense, his inclusion was only put there so as to generate buzz for the movie after its release. Oh hey, Solo might not be all that important, but there is Darth Maul in there, you definitely want to see that. Because over these past few years, Darth Maul has shot up in popularity, starting of course with Star Wars The Clone Wars, then moving to Rebels, and then obviously, back with Season 7 of Star Wars The Clone Wars. And my worry is that the same thing will happen to Ahsoka, that she will be relegated to a mere cameo role in big projects just to elevate the project that it's in. If someone puts a major Star Wars character in kind of a cameo role for any particular project, that needs to be elevated by their presence. Think Darth Vader in Rogue One. Rogue One would not be the same were it not for Darth Vader's inclusion. The hallway scene at the end was amazing, but also the setup on Mustafar and his conversations with Orson Krennic were pivotal to the plot of the movie. So if Ahsoka takes place and is in any of these series, it needs to be her own series, something that can actually advance her storyline, tell more about her, because ultimately her entire story, well, at least to a point, is completed. We've seen her entire Jedi path through Order 66, we've seen her rebel path through Episode 6, but ultimately the only story that she has left is that which takes place after the original trilogy with Sabine attempting to find Ezra. Could there be more after that? Yes, but I would like a linear story. I don't need her to be just wandering around and then be like, oh hey, look, here she is in The Mandalorian, because I know that a lot of people are going to say, well, she's going to be the one that Din Djarin drops the child off to, and I just have to say to that, it's most likely going to be Luke. Ahsoka isn't a Jedi. Everyone seems to forget that. Luke is. Luke would make much more sense in this scenario, and so honestly, to have her in there, with the fact that Luke is likely going to be the person that the child is dropped off to, is simply a means of fan service, trying to bait the fans, like, oh hey, Ahsoka's gonna be in this, so come on, you know you want to watch it. Regarding the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which will also be on Disney Plus next year, it's really not entirely sure what role she'd have, if again any of these rumors actually hold any weight, though I would believe it would be a flashback role of some kind, so not necessarily a very intrusive role, nothing that would really derail any particular scene or anything by her presence, but we have to keep in mind that that is what it should be. Anything that she is in should not take away from the fact of any main character's story. And if she's in it, the fact is that it will. No self-respecting Star Wars fan is going to watch The Mandalorian, any scene with Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano, and not have their eyes completely glued on her character as opposed to The Mandalorian, and that also is my problem with this oversaturation of Ahsoka Tano. Not only is she made lower by any of this, but it also takes away from the actual project, which is a topic that I've made in a completely separate video. Feel free to watch that at any time. But ultimately, what I have to say is just this. We need to limit exactly what we show for Ahsoka. I'm not saying that she can't have more roles. I would love to see more of Ahsoka, but I don't want to see her relegated to a simple cameo role. If she is in any Star Wars project, it needs to be as its lead. Throw her in as many comic book series, novels, video games, whatever that you want. but as far as TV and movie, we need to limit her role, and even video games to that extent too. If she were to come across in the Jedi Fallen Order sequel, which again is just another rumor, I would be happy with that, but again, we need to also limit it, because every time she shows up, we run the risk of just having another Darth Maul in Solo. And as cool as it would be to see Ahsoka in any capacity in anything, just like it was to see Darth Maul at the end of Solo, we have to remember that ultimately, if they don't serve a purpose, we're going to walk away just being like, that was cool, but that also added nothing. And that is my exact fear for the character of Ahsoka Tano. You want to make her live action, that's perfectly fine. I remember years ago, yes, literal years, where Rosario Dawson was asked if she could play any Star Wars character she wanted, who would it be? And she said Ahsoka Tano. And I brought up the idea of a live-action Ahsoka Tano. Everybody was like, that's never going to happen. But now, now that all these rumors are going around, everyone's like, well, now it's confirmed, which it's not. Again, watch my other video on this. I go into explicit detail on exactly what everything, all of this means. But ultimately, if she's in it, that's great. But let's limit her role, let's limit her job to something that is actually her own project, as opposed to just throwing her in everything just because we can. Ahsoka doesn't have the luxury of being Darth Vader. She doesn't have the luxury of being such a huge character that to include her into any projects would make sense. She is a big character and a very popular character. However, she is going to have to go through a lot to have the same level of prestige that Darth Vader does, that Obi-Wan Kenobi does, that someone like Luke Skywalker does. I mean, you got to just imagine what the writers would have to do to make her roles in anything significant and make sense. For example, in Star Wars The Clone Wars, she had to be expelled from the Jedi Order in order for her to actually survive Order 66. If she was a Jedi, it would have made a lot less sense, but obviously she was in Order 66. But the point is, they made it to where she survived by a certain set of circumstances. When it came to Rebels, she had to go into the temple on Malachor in order to survive the original trilogy. She was left there. She stayed there after fighting the Emperor and then being put back in her own time. She stayed there throughout the entire length of the original trilogy, only coming out afterwards to find Ezra with Sabine. So because she is not a main movie character and we don't really have her entire story logged, then it's likely that writers will have to work extra hard to make her inclusion in any particular era make sense, because she can be in the period between episodes 6 and 7. However, they're going to have to figure out some way, either killing her off or making her go into hiding again so as to excuse her not helping out the resistance against the First Order. And ultimately, while it may have worked for the original and the prequel trilogies to keep on doing this, to keep going, doing somersaults around the canon timeline in order to explain where Ahsoka was, can ultimately only harm her. So, if every rumor is proven 100% true, then we will definitely be having an oversaturation of Ahsoka Tano, and it will definitely be too much of a good thing. Let me know your thoughts, comment below. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you again next time.